Hello, hello, hello. Welcome, welcome, welcome. I have some confessions to make. I have some confessions to broadcast, to share to the world, things that I'm realizing inside of myself as I'm doing research, working on myself, embracing my healing journey. This is what I'm about. Sharing my healing journey for other people to help inspire them to look inside of themselves, to embrace their healing journey. And yeah, we've been doing a lot of healing, especially today. We did some deep sessions last evening in Reiki Kundalini with Surya Soul Sun. Been doing a lot of work with them throughout the years, and we're doing some very, very intense healing. So I have some things to share. I have some confessions. I'm coming clean. That's really what's important is just coming clean. There's nothing to impress with anybody in any way. It's really just embracing your healing journey. This is what I've come to understand. And one thing that I'm getting back into is reading. Reading is very beneficial in a lot of ways. Uh, One thing to be careful about is when you're being toxic, is when you're kind of on tilt in a way, as we would say in poker, when you're kind of being a little bit too emotional and you're not speaking kind to others, you're not speaking kind to yourself. You may have negative thoughts, this and that. So it's really important to have good thoughts, good words, good deeds is a very, very deep teaching, and here to help other people as well too as I put myself out there. Um, so that's one of the things is going through and just reading other people's thoughts. And obviously, in today's world, we have artificial intelligence and all that different things. And ultimately, what's important is to work through and develop your own thoughts. So I was reading this article by Nick Wignall, um, and Six Habits of Highly Insecure People, as I've been doing research in insecurity and what would lead a person, what are the causes of feeling inadequate and insecurity inside of oneself. First and foremost, for my own healing, for my own healing journey. It's not to put anybody else down by any ways. It's because I want to be secure inside myself. This is extremely important because the only security truly is the security inside yourself. And we've been taught to look for security outside of ourselves. And as we can see, this is creating a lot of toxic behavior. So we're going to get into this article. I'm going to read this article for you, and we're going to go through a lot of different reading. I didn't grab my quantum healing book, but I'm going doing a lot of quantum healing as well too. So we're just going to do this for now because I want to get this out there. Um, so, Six Habits of Highly Insecure People. Most people think of emotional insecurity as a personality trait, something you're born with that dooms you to life of chronic anxiety and low self-esteem. And while it can certainly feel that way to people who have been insecure most of their lives, the real reason we feel chronically insecure is much more subtle. Whatever caused your insecurity initially, it's your habits that keep you feeling insecure. In my work as a psychologist, I found that the best way to finally escape the cycle of insecurity is to identify the habits that are maintaining your insecurity now. We all have complicated lives and histories, but if you want to feel less insecure and more confident, working on even one or two of these habits will make a big difference. Number one, criticizing others. The capacity to be critical is not always a bad thing. After all, to navigate life successfully, we have to be able to discriminate and analyze the people, problems, and situations in our lives so that we can make good decisions. For example, a good way to end up in an unhappy marriage is to not think critically about the person you're about to marry. But here's the thing: while the ability to be critical is an important skill, like anything, it can be taken too far. Insecure people often use criticism of others as a way to feel better about themselves. Now, I want to add here, just adding that this is a confession for me. This video is about my own confessions and my own things that I'm realizing and that I'm changing inside myself. See, people who are insecure constantly feel bad about themselves, and often they don't know how to feel better in a healthy or productive way. So they often resort to criticizing others. Another note is that this is one of the biggest things that I'm changing, that I have been changing and continue to change right now, are my habits in more healthy coping mechanisms and really, what am I doing? Because I've had unhealthy habits that would maintain my sense of insecurity. They would maybe give me a very temporary feeling of security or comfort or safety inside of myself, but ultimately, in the long term, they were not a healthy habit. So, but how does criticizing other people help us feel better about ourselves? Well, that's the thing. In the long run, it doesn't. Being overly critical of other people will end up making you feel guilty and worse about yourself in the long run, only adding to your insecurity. But in the very short term, being critical of others makes us feel better by comparison. For example, when you think to yourself how dumb someone's comment during a meeting was, what you're implying is that you are smart, and that feels good, in the expense of others, may I add. When you criticize your spouse for always forgetting to take out the trash, what you are implying is that you are conscientious, and that feels good, in the expense of others. When you laugh in your head at how bad your friend's outfit looks, what you're really telling yourself is how stylish and sophisticated you are, and that feels good. Helpful criticism is about making the world a better place. Unhelpful criticism is about making yourself feel better in the expense of others. If you want to be less insecure, stop using criticism to artificially inflate your sense of self, because it will only backfire in the end. Worry number two: worrying about the future. A lot of people convince themselves that their chronic worry is inevitable or even necessary because, well, somebody has to think about negatives in the future, right? Absolutely. But here's the mistake: worry is fundamentally different than effective planning and problem solving. By definition, worry is unhelpful thinking about negatives in the future. Planning and problem solving can be difficult because they're negative, but they lead to results. They're productive and generative. The only thing worry leads to is stress and anxiety in the moment, and low self confidence and insecurity in the long term, which makes sense if you think about it. How much trust are you engaging in your mind if you're constantly worrying about every possible negative outcome in the future? So, why do we do it? Why worry so much if it only makes us anxious and kills our self trust without actually getting anything done? We worry because it does do something for us. Worry gives us the illusion of control. Life is full of sad, disappointing, and frustrating things. And our ability to actually change most of those things is far more limited than we like to believe. But confronting our limitations and helplessness, side note, learned helplessness, is profoundly scary. So we worry. because it makes us feel like we have control and can do something. But ultimately, it's a trap. You can't control nearly as much as you would like. Better to face up to that reality than continue to live in chronic worry and all the insecurity it produces. Number three, never saying no. One of the biggest reasons insecure people stay that way is because they are afraid to say no to people. For example, your mother in law asks you if she can drop by and hang out with the kids. You're having a rough day and really don't need the added stress of hosting her. But because you're afraid she'll think badly of you, you say yes anyways. Anyway, you've been burnt out and stressed at work because of too many projects. Your manager stops by your office and asks if you can take on a new account because you're afraid to lose your status as the guy or girl or lady who gets stuff done. You say yes, and your stress only gets worse. The problem with never saying no is that you end up living other people's lives instead of your own. And if you go for months, years, or decades not living your own life, how could you hope to feel confident and secure in yourself? Each time you say yes to someone else at the expense of yourself, you're telling your mind that what you want isn't that important. If this becomes a habit, it shouldn't be surprising when your mind doesn't value itself. If you want to feel more secure, you must learn to stand up for yourself and your own wants and needs. Always remember that your wants and needs are just as valid as anyone else's. Number four, asking for reassurance. Reassurance seeking is one of the worst offenders when it comes to habits that make us feel insecure. When you habitually ask for reassurance, you're really telling yourself you can't handle things on your own. Tell yourself that often enough, and you're going to feel like you can't handle anything. Obviously, getting reassurance feels good in the moment. When you feel anxious and indecisive, outsourcing your decision to someone else relieves you of the anxiety. When you feel afraid of being judged for choosing one thing over another, asking for a reassurance relieves your fear of being judged. When you're worried about how you look, asking someone else makes you feel a little less anxious and a little more confident. The real problem with chronic reassurance seeking is what it does to your confidence in the long term. If you're always using other people to feel better, you're never learning how to help yourself feel better. And if you believe deep down that you're not capable of helping yourself deal with emotional pain and difficulty, you're going to feel very insecure. If you want to feel more secure and self confident, train yourself to tolerate short term anxiety. Number five, passive aggressive communication. Passive aggressive communication is when you want something but are too afraid of conflict to ask for it directly. So you try to make people give it to you through subtle manipulation tactics instead. This is the worst form of communication because it combines passivity and the fear of asking for what you want with aggression and the attempt to control other people. Passive aggressive people disguise their aggression so they don't have to take responsibility for it. For example, routinely showing up late to things is often a form of passive aggressiveness because you're trying to get what you want, more time for yourself, without taking responsibility for it and avoiding criticism. The traffic was awful. But like so many of the habits in this article, being passive aggressive only works in the short term. Sure, you may end up getting what you want from people now, but eventually people get tired of it and stop playing your game altogether. You never get the bonus at work you're expecting. You stop getting invited to events and social gatherings. Your relationships never seem to last or stick. Passive aggressive people usually end up lonely and resentful. And while they may blame other people, deep down, they're really resentful of themselves for not having the courage to be honest and direct with people. Combine loneliness and self resentment, and insecurity is sure to follow. The good news is you can learn to be less passive aggressive by practicing assertive communication. It's a highly trainable skill, especially if you start small and work your way up slowly. Number six, excessive positivity. This probably sounds like a strange one, but being excessively positive will quickly lead to a lot of emotional insecurity. And the reason is straightforward. Excessive positivity is just denial in fancy clothes. Now, there's nothing wrong with striving to be cheerful and optimistic. In fact, I think both of those are pretty healthy things. But excessive positivity is different. It means using positivity as a way to distract yourself from something that is truly bad, negative, or painful. For example, your best friend calls you up to chat and asks how things are going. Even though you just had a horrible fight with your partner and are feeling awful and worried about the relationship, you summon as much cheerfulness as you can and say, "Yeah, things are good," and go on to talk about something happy in your life. The problem here is that there really is a problem in your life. And by insisting on being positive all the time, you're procrastinating on dealing with it. In this case, avoiding some genuine social support and compassion because you're too embarrassed. Of course, just because you're feeling bad and there's a problem doesn't mean you must talk about it, but it's very easy to get into the habit of always avoiding negative things and insisting on putting up a facade of positivity all the time. In addition to distracting you from dealing with the very real problems in your life, including not being good at managing your own painful emotions, there is another major downside. Excessive positivity is just a mask, and it's awfully hard to trust and be intimate with people who wear masks all the time. When you're constantly playing roles and wearing masks, eventually the important people in your life will catch on to this disingenuousness and realize you're not in a relationship they want to invest much in anymore. So, if you want to feel less insecure, experiment in small ways with being willing to express some negativity sometimes. You might just find that you feel better for it in the end. All you need to know, insecurity isn't a life sentence. And no matter what caused your insecurity in the first place, it's often the case that subtle habits are maintaining it now. If you can work to identify and eliminate these habits, confidence and self worth will follow. So that is the article here on nickwignall.com. And that was a very, very beautiful article. And this is this is a confession. I have some confessions, guys. I've thought about this before. It's like I don't know if you ever growing up would watch a show on HBO, Confessions in New York. They have in the cab. But anyway, this show is Master Shane's Confessions. So we got a lot of confessions, and I do admit that I have engaged in a lot of passive aggressive behavior and tactics. So I've been doing research on this, okay, because I'm embracing my healing journey and it's not something that I want to maintain. It's not something that I want to hold and have a part of me anymore. So that's identifying it and being able to learn assertive communication. That's the solution, assertive communication. Because I mean, passive aggressive communication is, as they say, like the worst communication. And here we go. We got some more stuff about passive aggressive behavior. Asking Google here, passive aggressive behavior is a pattern of indirectly expressing negative emotions through subtle acts of resistance, defiance, or neglect. I'm kind of a rebel in a big way. I've always kind of had to defy authority in a lot of ways because I felt things, and it's just I'm kind of a wild kind of guy. But hey, we can all change. We can all mend our ways if we're open, willing, and ready. It's often used to avoid confrontation, criticism, or rejection. Some signs of passive aggressive behavior include veiled insults, disguised as praise, but actually insults. For example, I saw you did the dishes. I was surprised. Indirect refusal, not saying no, but also not doing what's asked. So that was a short clip of passive aggressive behavior. And being able to identify these things, if this is something that you want to heal inside of yourself. I think it's I'm not the only one. um, and it's quite harmful, and ultimately it's limiting one's own opportunity in life. um, we're all dealt different cards in life, and the main thing is taking responsibility for that, no matter what hand it is, no matter where you got the hand or what's being played on the community. Um, the way to really change it, the way to really transform it, to heal it, is to take responsibility. It's not about blaming, it's not about making excuses, but it's about taking responsibility. It's about trying to seek for constructive, peaceful solutions, creative solutions inside your life. And so, this is what takes a lot of courage to be able to face these vulnerabilities inside of ourselves, not to put ourselves down. I've faced a lot of things in my life, and it's the transcendence of that. I feel that a big part of some of the unpleasant, unfortunate experiences that we are all experiencing collectively or individually, it's really to get to a point inside of yourself where you don't wish that upon anybody. I firmly believe becoming a well wisher is an enormous teaching in today's world. There are different traditions and faiths that have that. But even in specific traditions and paths, we have to be careful in not being too righteous and not thinking that you're right and everybody else is wrong. One of the first things I realized upon my awakening is that we're all right. The truth is that we're all right. So it's not so much how we justify something, more so of what are we trying to justify in the first place. Are we trying to justify an unfortunate circumstance or situation in life, something that has happened to us, something that's happened for us? Or are we looking at the silver lining and how we can turn everything into gold, how we can truly make the best out of everything, how we can truly become the best version of ourselves? And that all begins with the possibility of it. Because without the openness of that, that's the only failure is giving up, is thinking that it's a life sentence, that you're doomed, you're condemned, when that is far from the truth. Because if you're alive, if you're breathing, you can change. One of the greatest discoveries is that man, woman can change. We can change. So a lot of people have held on. It's just kind of easy to do, the path of least resistance. I use that in having a lot of compassion and seeing the light in people, seeing the possibility of people changing, not trying to condemn somebody to a previous behavior or self-image, but to be able to see the possibility of somebody. And that all starts with you, that all starts with me, and seeing the possibility of me, seeing the possibility of you, and doing good and becoming a light, becoming a value, and looking at our form of communication is a great starting point. It's a great foundation because it's a large portion of our day, our everyday. And one of the biggest teachings in today's world to coexist with each other, to learn on how to work together for a common good, a universal good. Because ultimately, there is this universal good, there is this universal denominator that we all share. We all want to live happily. We all want to have a beautiful family and to be healthy and to be prosperous. So, what's really going on? It all begins with us to be able to break free from these perceived so called limitations and to be the example, the testament to what is possible. What is life? What do you want to make out of it? Not feeling down, not giving in to apathy, to failure, just understanding it's been a pattern. So, the more that you can embrace your healing journey, the more that you can face yourself and understand that you have the power to change, that is to help you change. It's not to condemn you, but it's to help you be the best that you can be. Not in comparison of other people, because that's just leads to insecurity. Always comparing ourselves, and in today's world, the digital world, you don't see the full story. So what is the full story? Not worrying about other people, not worrying too much about yourself, getting into work, just getting into motion, just getting into work. So I've been doing a lot of healing, and I'm in a totally different place inside myself of much more clarity, much more. I don't even want to say determination because it's actually not. I don't. It's not determination. There's not this like aggressiveness. There's a softness of just allowing the outside to be the outside. So maybe there is a healing of the aggressiveness. Maybe there's the softness. Not trying to force of this deepening of this inner yearning, realization, being willing to mend your ways. Part of it is stepping up as a leader, to really step up as a leader. What is a leader, and how would I like to serve a leader? What type of leader would I like to serve? This is why I feel spiritual work is so important. There's so much fulfillment in that. And I really do believe that people want to serve a good leader. I think that people are yearning to serve a good leader. And maybe they don't fully understand. Maybe they don't fully realize. Maybe some of them don't know it yet. But once you get a taste, that's all it takes. Once you start to know, you're going to want to fully know. And there's been some great spiritual teachers who have had students who have been adamant about meditating with them, doing practice with them, people who were like right hand man. And teacher would just be, don't worry about it. Just work. Just do your work. There are many limbs to yoga. Not just one. Maybe one for you. But there are many people. There are many paths to that one point that is inside of you. And so the main important aspect is to get to that point inside of you. Not so much how you do it, so much as a successful path. Not getting so caught up in the right and wrong, but just going the whole way. So, whatever path you may find yourself on, fully commit, and maybe you can change paths, but you'll never know until you fully commit. wherever you are. And you can make small adjustments and such, mending your ways, embracing your healing journey, making confessions. I mean, I have a lot of confessions, but it's not to put me down. You have to get out of this too critical for our own good. It's not about comparing other people or comparing yourself or comparing your life. Understanding that this just leads and feeds the insecurity. Insecurity is a very important part in today's world. This is how we make money. This is how we have confidence. This is how we do things, right? It comes from our confidence, our self esteem. And what are a lot of people dealing with? So if you can't fly, then run. If you can't run, then walk. If you can't walk, then crawl. And if you can't even do that, well, I mean, at least you can see yourself doing it inside yourself. I know. I've had times where I wasn't even able to crawl. So we could do a little meditation. I'm just gonna sit, and you can just sit with me, and we'll finish this up for today. And this is my commitment. We're just taking step by step and building that consistency with inside of ourselves, building that service, putting myself out there for people. It's here. It's up to you to receive inside yourself. Breathing in, breathing out, coming back to yourself, always coming back to yourself, always coming back to yourself. Slowly moving your body, opening your eyes if they're closed, touching your hands together, rubbing your hands together, rubbing your face, top of your head, your ears, waking up, waking up, waking up. Inside yourself, inside yourself, awaken now, awaken now. This is today's teaching. Hope to see you tomorrow. Live in the moment. Goonies never die.